So John Ziegler is a senior columnist for the website Mediaite, and he hosts a weekly podcast on freespeechbroadcasting.com. He was on this early, and he didn't believe it. So I wanted him to come on today and say why. Was it just like me that you were, again, way ahead of me? The facts just didn't stand up on this story, or was there something else?
Your synopsis was the best I've heard in the media in the last several weeks, summing this whole thing up. That was quite extraordinary, and I think you hit on almost all the key points. I would say that what put me in a slightly different category is that I have kind of become very accustomed to these stories over the years. I have a very finely tuned BS detector, and unlike the national news media, I'm not afraid to call it out when I see that the emperor has no clothes. And as you very well pointed out, this was obvious right from the beginning, and I now believe the police knew this was obvious right from the beginning. And I think the police played possum on Jussie Smollett. They fooled even me. I thought, and the biggest mistake I made in this, I actually thought that the first theory that the police had, that this was a domestic dispute gone wrong that turned into a false hate crime allegation, and now we learned that it was a completely orchestrated hoax, that was based in part because the police at the beginning couldn't believe that this orchestration was so pathetic, that it was so badly planned, that it was so obvious. They had actually tracked the two Nigerian friends, one of whom I believe Smollett was in a romantic relationship with, all the way from the alleged scene of the crime to an Uber. And they knew their identities very early on, and they put out that
But don't be so hard on the cops, because what technique that they used was to allow Mr. Smollett to believe that the authorities believed his story.
I agree. No.
Okay, that's what they wanted. And then they wanted to get more information from him, like his phone records and who he was talking to, so that the story would fall apart, which it eventually did. Now,
100%.
So you're sitting there in Los Angeles, and you're seeing a story that makes no sense to anybody with an IQ over 30, okay?
Right.
And then here come the virtue signalers. Here come the far left Democratic candidates. Here come the Hollywood pinheads. Rob Reiner. I mean, unbelievable. He said, quote, "The horrific attack on Jussie Smollett has no place in a decent, human-loving society. Homophobia existed before Trump, but there's no question that since he's injected his hatred into the American bloodstream, we are less decent." I mean, it's just... So you're sitting there and you're watching the virtue signaling coming out. All right. We're so noble. We're so good. And those Trump people did this to poor Jussie Smollett. So what's going through your mind?
Well, Bill, I have an exact opposite reaction to virtue signaling and narrative creation than the vast majority of the rest of the news media. I see that as a sign the story is baloney. Because if it's really true, you don't need to be virtue signaling. And I also understand the dangers of a narrative taking hold because of virtue signaling, because it's a popular narrative, because it fits into what the liberal media believes the world is like, which you and I both know it's not the way the world is like. And the greatest obstruction to telling the truth about this case was fear. I was even brought on Chicago radio stations early on in this story because even radio hosts were afraid to question Smollett's story, so they figured, all right, let John Ziegler do it.
Yeah, right.
From Los Angeles. We can't get in
But you
trouble.
Understand what the fear is, that the Twitter mob, talk about a noose, talk about hanging. If you go against a gay black man who says he was assaulted, you have to die.
Well, but see, Bill, you on a much bigger level than me, I already have the bullet holes in my career to show that I can survive them. I don't care. Come after me. You're actually proving to me I must be right, because otherwise you'd be talking about facts. And and to broaden this subject a little bit, I'm really glad you mentioned Brett Kavanaugh, because to me, this is in many ways Kavanaugh redo, and a large part of why we were supposed to believe Christine Ford, who I believe didn't lie. I think it was a therapy-created memory. We were supposed to believe her because people like her, prominent people, don't make this stuff up. Well, now that's been proven to not be true. The entire basis of her claim is false. And frankly, Smollett's claim had more substantiation than hers. So thank you for bringing up Brett Kavanaugh.
Well, I mean, it's the same people involved, and it's the same political hatchet being tossed. You look, in the Christine Ford, Blasey Ford case, all I wanted as an American, all I wanted was give the man due process. Unless there is hard evidence, you can't convict him. No jury in the world, not in the world, in this country would have convicted Brett Kavanaugh of anything. Yet Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, on, every Hollywood idiot, are convicting the man of a heinous crime, hurting him and his family without any evidence whatsoever. And now we see that fraud in these things, as you just pointed out, is not unusual.
No, this is an epidemic. I mean, just Google fake hate crimes, for instance, and you'll have hours of very interesting reading. And it's not just within hate crimes, although I think that's the area where we're most vulnerable because we're so afraid of not embracing a hate crime that we end up embracing those that are obviously ludicrous, like Jussie Smollett. But I have found in my career, this is happening on a consistent basis. And there are many stories, Bill, and I bet you'll agree with this because you probably experienced some of them, that to this day are considered to still be true that are flat out false.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. But now it's easier to do it because of the Twitter and because of the mob that is formed there. Now, final question. The mandate of any journalist is to seek the truth. And I have said for years, that's gone. New York Times, Washington Post, they didn't go out and aggressively try to find out what happened in Jussie Smollett's case or Brett Kavanaugh's case. They did not do it because they liked the narrative that was set up. Kavanaugh was an abusive man. Smollett was a victim. They liked that so that they said, fine, we're going to run with it. And we don't care if it's true or not. Now, the local Chicago media, they did their job, but not the national press. ABC, NBC, CBS. Oh, it's so terrible. Oh, my God. They have resources, crazy resources they could have used. None of them did it. Why?
Because truth is no longer the coin of the realm, Bill. Popularity is the coin of the realm. The business model of the news media is broken. When the business model is broken, you have to play it safe. You have to go for narratives that will appeal to your audience, and you're not going to take any risks. And there's no bigger risk, as you know, especially as someone like me, as a straight white male, going after a black gay celebrity hate crime victim. Because if you're wrong, or even if you're perceived as wrong, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get destroyed. There's no risk-reward ratio, so it's about popularity, not about truth.
All right, John. Check out John Ziegler's freespeechbroadcasting.com podcast. We appreciate you taking the time tonight. Thank you.